What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from the Goose Island Beer Company, and they're out of Chicago, Illinois, and this is their Bourbon County Brand Stout, and this is the 2021 vintage, and this is also the 14% alcohol by volume version. So they're calling this one a stout aged in bourbon barrels. It comes in at the aforementioned 14% alcohol by volume, 60 IBUs at the time of review. This bottle is approximately 6.5 months old. So believe it or not, but I have not reviewed anything from the Bourbon County lineup on my channel. My channel is almost 4 years old. In fact, I've only reviewed one other beer from Goose Island on the channel. It was like, it was a Kolsch. I think it was called like Summertime or something like that. What's the reason for that? There is no rhyme or reason. I just haven't done it, and I don't know why. So starting today, when you see this review, it should be on a Friday. Every single Friday going forward for the next couple months, I am going to be reviewing a beer within the Bourbon County lineup. It's going to be some of their recent vintages, some older vintages. I have some in the cellar that I want to get to, and yeah, we're just going to start though with the most recent vintage, the base, because I think that's a good place to start. Now, I have had numerous vintages of the base, of a bunch of different variants, and I can't sit here and tell you what one of my favorite bases have been, but I will say this. I remember the 2012 being absolutely phenomenal. Now, again, that's 10 years ago. So this is the 2021, and I am super, super excited to get into this one. So yeah, let's give it a crack here and a pour, and we'll get into it. So 6.5 months old. Even though they release these on Black Friday, they bottle them typically in August of the year. So when these are on the shelf, typically they're like 3.5 months old already. So these, even though on the label here it says develops in the bottle for up to 5 years, so you can age these quite well. Anyway, let's give it a pour here, see what we got going on. Yeah, so it's pouring out like motor oil, right? We're probably going to go something like that. We're not going to go crazy. I want to be able to get my nose in there and figure it out. So yeah, that poured out like motor oil. So in the glass, there are sheets, curtains of alcohol on the glass, but in it, it's pitch black. Well, I shouldn't say it's pitch black. It has a really deep, dark brown color. There's a little bit of a lighter tinge here. On camera, it's going to be pitch black, but in person, trust me, it's dark. It's a dark brown, and then down here, it gets more of like a moderate brown. The head itself, typically in big ABV beers, your head's not going to stick around, especially barrel-aged beers, but that has about a half finger of this really nice mocha-colored head. Looks somewhat creamy. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Bourbon County, at least from what I've had in the past. It's a good nose. Oh, I thought this was going to be like super intense to my nose, but it's really not. Oh, there are just a ton. There's a ton of like decadent, rich notes. It sounds crazy, but in the nose, it almost is like they have cocoa nibs in here. It's more of like a refined kind of chocolate, and it's like milk chocolate, dark chocolate, any kind of chocolate you really want to mention in the nose, 100%. Tons of chocolate. Then I'm getting caramel, caramelized sugars. Almost creme brulee-esque. There's caramel. I wouldn't say necessarily like butterscotch, but there's like caramelized sugars. There's a lot of vanilla. There's oak tannins. The bourbon is present in the nose, but it's more from that oak tannin vanilla type of character. There's a slight like peppery, spicy bourbon note, but very minute. Maybe like a black cherry too. There's a little bit of a fruity essence here, but it's not like, a lot of times you'll drink big, rich Imperial Stouts and they'll kick out plums and raisins and dates and things like that. And same thing with like Belgian beers. But with this, it's more of like a black cherry. Almost a slight cherry cordial-esque type of thing going on. I don't say this a lot because I don't get it a lot, but it almost has a leathery tobacco type of nose. More to the tobacco side, I would say. I don't know why it's a leathery first. Oh, it envelops your nose. The aroma is just like very aromatic. There's a lot going on. It's very complex. Every time I swirl it and then go back, I get something else. What I like about this is, it's a word I use a lot, but I think it's proper here. It's very cohesive in the nose. none of those characters are jumping to the forefront and dominating. Everything blends together very nicely. I mentioned creme brulee. There's a little bit of like a roasted malt coffee thing. You could say tiramisu. You could like a lot of rich and decadent desserts, but it's not dessert. It's not like a pastry beer or a pastry stout. It has those old school Imperial Stout Asian bourbon barrel vibes, but all of the characters and the complexity of this beer are coming from the base beer and that barrel. One thing I am slightly disappointed, and I don't get it all the time with this beer, but I'm really not getting any like coconut barrel presence, which is kind of a bummer. One of the reasons I love like Firestone Walker barrel aged beers is because of that, but I've gotten it before in Bourbon County, but I'm just not getting it here. It smells fucking awesome, so let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Oh, man. So, why haven't I reviewed you? What am I doing with my life? I'm well over 1,000 reviews on YouTube, and it's the first time I'm reviewing a Bourbon County beer. Like, the fuck am I doing? Body in this one, it's not super like thick and motor oil-esque. It has a nice oil kind of presence. It has a nice slick oil like type of feeling to the body. Very slick on the palate. This is definitely approaching full-bodied, if not full-bodied, but it's not like you're chewing it. It's proper. It's 14%. It's proper, I think, for the ABV. The mouthfeel, there's carbonation, but really smooth and almost velvety on the palate. So body and mouthfeel are proper for what you're kind of going for in this beer. The taste, though, I don't know how you would drink this beer and not say something about the chocolate and vanilla presence in here, especially the chocolate. The nose was screaming, again, dark milk, baker's chocolate, like just run the gamut of different chocolate. But in the taste, I'm getting almost like a fudgy-esque kind of chocolate. And again, I'm saying things like creme brulee and tiramisu and fudge, but it's that in like Imperial Stout form. So it's not, again, pastry-esque. This has a nice fudgy, slightly like brownie batter type of thing going on. Not really big, but it's huge on the chocolate. Almost like they added cocoa nibs or cacao nibs to this one. That kind of envelops the palate. It's omnipresent. The chocolate is everywhere. But as that hits in the front of the palate, passes through, that chocolate stays with you. But I'm getting black cherry, very slight, not as big in the nose. A lot of burnt sugars, caramel. I would say caramel toffee, not quite butterscotch, but more caramel and toffee for me. All those sweet flavors, beautiful up front. But where this beer really shines and balances out is about halfway to 2/3 of the way through the palate. The oak hits from the barrel. There's a really nice vanilla presence too. And the vanilla presence blankets for me the palate, and the oak hits and carries on through the rest of the palate into the finish. And what that does is on the back of the palate, I'm left with this really semi to full-on dry finish. And there's a moderate bitterness here. It's earthy, but it's almost like, and I've mentioned this before, but it's like you took a popsicle stick and like kind of held it in your mouth, or you're like done with the ice cream on it and you're twirling around or whatever. That kind of dryness and slight bitterness you get on the back of the palate is that's the character that I'm getting for that's what I'm getting. On the palate, it's not overly boozy, but it's a big beer. There's a little bit of like an alcohol booziness on the palate. What I guess 14%, if I was doing this blind, probably like 12 to 13. I wouldn't guess necessarily 14, but you can tell it's a bigger beer. There's a big warming into the chest, into the stomach. Like it's very nice. It's kind of lets you know you're drinking a bigger beer. What I like about this one is, if you're in the mood for something that's big, rich, decadent, but not like overly sweet, this is a beer that more often than not usually hits the nail on the head for that. It's sweet, but it's balanced enough where I'm going to be able to drink. So I'm going to probably cap this one and drink it tomorrow. But I could easily take down this 16.9 ounce bottle. Here's the thing. I remember Kyle saying this before, and I've said it multiple times. I love the smaller format of any kind of big beer, so I'd love to see this back in the 12-ounce bottles it used to be in, or even they have like the 8-ounce cans now. Like, I'm not saying put this in an 8-ounce can, but what I'm saying is I like the smaller formats because I feel like a beer like this is meant to be shared. And, or, I'm going to drink it over the course of 2 days. But something like this for me is a beer that I don't want to take the dome piece, 14% in a 17-ounce bottle. Like, that's just too much for me, especially nowadays with everything's going on with me. But I get why they did it. I mean, the look of this bottle, everything's phenomenal about it. So, like, I get it, but at the end of the day, go back to 12-ounce bottles, please. This is just delicious. Is it as good as the 2012 that I remember? Probably not, but maybe that wasn't as good. And I just, back in 2012, I was like 2 years into craft beer, like 2.5 years. And I remember that beer kind of blew me away. So it's a kind of the nostalgia factor of like looking back at that and being like, oh, that was amazing beer. But this is one of the better Bourbon County base vintages that I've had in recent memory. I think I really like that. That chocolate character is just like, if I was doing, so I like to always say, like, if I was doing this as a mystery / whodunit beer and I'm going into this one blind, I would guess probably like 12.5% Imperial Stout, aged in barrels, but with chocolate. I would 100% chocolate, say chocolate, maybe vanilla. The chocolate is so pronounced and so just in your face in both the nose and the taste that it's like, it's crazy that this is just from the base beer. I'd like to see more like coconut from this one, or any coconut from the barrel. I mean, that's just a personal preference because I love toasted coconut, any kind of coconut. Not getting it in this year's vintage, maybe as it ages, I don't know. Yeah, it's really fucking good. This is a really delicious beer. It's not my favorite vintage based off memory, and maybe some of the other variants will be better. So maybe some prior vintages will be better. But rating on the Bourbon County Brand Stout, the 2021 vintage, the 14% version. I am going to give that a high 4.5 out of 5. I'm going to go 4.6 out of 5. Doesn't quite get in the 4.7 range for me, but for like the base Bourbon County, this is fucking delicious. Like, there's not much more to say about it. So, price and availability. We'll talk. Dave, I forgot about tasting those. Like, I saw them earlier, but I forgot about them. Price and availability. This is going to vary for most of you out there because this gets distro in all kinds of places. For me in my area, I think this was $12.99 or $13.99 for that bottle. You're talking $13 to $14 for a 16.9 fluid ounce Imperial Stout Asian bourbon barrels at 14%. That's fine. The variants are where they get kind of wonky with the price point, but with this, it's fine. Availability, wherever you see Goose Island and see this beer in general, there's a lot of places I know in the U.S. where this beer will just sit on shelves for a year or two, which is crazy. In my area, they usually get picked clean. Sometimes there's stuff left over, in the months after. In fact, I went to a local Wegmans grocery store recently, and I saw a couple bottles of this still hanging out. But if you really want the regular Bourbon County, you can find it all over the place. Yeah, not much more to say about it. Let's look at the tasting notes. Notes of vanilla, without question. Toffee. I did say toffee. I would say more caramel, or just like generic, like kind of like caramel, toffee, butterscotch. Chocolate. That should be it should say notes of chocolate, vanilla, toffee. Burnt sugar. Yeah, I mean, I say caramelized sugar, burnt sugar, sure. And dried fruit. Wouldn't say for me dried fruit unless you're looking at it like a dried cherry, but for me, it was more like just like a nice black cherry. So I think the taste notes are fine. The chocolate should be the first thing. And yeah, not much more to say about it. It says the original bourbon barrel-aged stout. I think this is the first barrel-aged. This or KBS was the first like barrel-aged stout I ever had. So yeah, not much more to say about it. So if you've had this one before, specifically this vintage, post in the comment section. If you've had any vintage from them, if you've had any variant, let me know. Like I said, I'm going to try to do this every Friday. So next Friday, I haven't necessarily selected what I'm going to review, but I will say it's about 80% positive that I'm going to do the cola variant. Why? Because I like cola. I like classic Coca-Cola. I'll drink Pepsi. I'll drink RC, whatever, off-brand, sure. I feel like I'm going to like that more than the regular Bourbon County drinker, but that's because I like cola. But I want to see if they kind of nail that. I'm kind of scared, but I'm kind of interested, but still scared. Really scared. Anyway, thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. I know this is a longer one, but I feel this is my first Bourbon County review on the channel. And I don't care if this is 12 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. It doesn't matter. It could be 20 minutes, and I really don't care. So I know a lot of people will click off after like 5 minutes, so it doesn't even matter. Anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by. To the next one. Cheers.